Jesus Christ's birth and the 14-pointed star of Bethlehem, which is found in the location of his nativity. There's a church there with an area of the grotto with a 14-pointed star, and this Bethlehem star can prove that Christ is the Messiah. This is what a theologian claims. Now, when we are reading the Bible, we have in Matthew, for example, the generations. It starts with the generations of Jesus Christ, and I'll read it for you, having to do with the 3 sets of 14. Now, I had asked last year, around Christmas, one of the theologians that was in our little church, and I asked him what this meant. 14 and 14 and 14 generations. And why was this put there? And he says, well, I don't know. And that's strange because we should know. Now, because, of course, this has to do with Christian Gospels. Christ was born more than 2,000 years ago as the true Jewish Messiah, and there's evidence to prove this. A Bible expert has astonishingly claimed. And the evidence is, according to him, the religious artifact known as the 14-pointed star of Bethlehem in the site of the Nativity Grotto, the site where Jesus Christ was born. The exact date of Christ's birth, among historians, theologians alike, regardless of whether Jesus was born December 25th or around there, most Christians agree Christ was the prophesied Messiah, the Son of God. And the Bible's Gospel of Matthew, I'll read that passage to you, this is a short passage. The location of Jesus' birth as a small town of Bethlehem in modern-day West Bank, Palestine, is just a few miles north of Jerusalem. Now, Scripture says Jesus was born in an extremely humbling environment to his mother Mary and his earthly father Joseph. Now, we know that they were humble because they didn't give a sheep or something much that expensive to the synagogue when he was born. They gave 2 little doves. And as we know from the Old Testament, you give 2 doves when you're not that affluent. And that's what they did. That's all they could afford. So that's what happened. Now the Bible makes it clear. Kindly support my Patreon channel because YouTube has again demonetized my YouTube channel. I'll have at least 5 videos that are not on my YouTube channel. Videos that, of course, are censored to certain platforms. I hope you'll find them interesting. The link is in the description box below each video. Thank you for your support. The book of Matthew reads, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, the Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. Now, the video before this one talks about the adoration of the Magi, the 3 Magi, and the star's path. It wasn't a normal celestial body or conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, as a lot of people believe and say, because, we know that the Earth goes from east to west. At least 2,000 years ago it did, and as it does today, from east to west. And that means that the stars go from west to east in relation to the Earth. So if the Earth goes from east to west, this star was going from east to west as well. It was westward proceeding, as the carol goes. Westward proceeding. So this was not a star. It was basically, from what theologians say, an angel that took the form of a star. Now, the book of Matthew reads that the Magi were asking where the one who has been born King of the Jews was. They said, we saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. It rose from east, heading west. Standing over the believed location of Christ's birth today is the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. It's a Byzantine house of worship. It's a Christian Orthodox site known as the Basilica of the Nativity. Tom Meyer, professor of biblical studies at Shasta Bible College and Graduate School in California, said that there's evidence of Christ's divine birth rests within the ancient church. specifically with the star of 14 points. Meyer says that the originally raised Roman Empire, Constantine the Great, the basilica was built between the year 330 and 33 BC. The church was destroyed some 200 years later in the 6th century AD, but was rebuilt by Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Empire. Now, Professor Meyer said at the east end of Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity Cave is the 14-pointed silver star laid on the marble pavement, marking the spot venerated by Christians for millennia as the exact birthplace of Jesus Christ. And according to the Bible expert, the star's 14 points, paired with the Gospel of Matthew, can reveal Christ's divine origin. He said the Gospel of Matthew was written with specific audience in mind, that is, the Jews. He said also it was written with specific purpose, to demonstrate that Jesus was, in fact, the Son of David, the fulfillment of many Old Testament prophecies, and the rightful heir of the Davidic throne. We know that that is from his mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, was from the house of David. Now, when Matthew recorded the family tree of Jesus through the line of Joseph, he was very careful to break the genealogy into 3 sections of 14 names each. Now, we know that Matthew took from the line of Joseph, and we know from the Old Testament you had to marry from your same tribe. You could not marry from another tribe of the Hebrews, the 12 tribes, okay? So Jesus' mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, had to marry someone from her own house of David. That's why Joseph was also from the house of David. When we look, though, through the genealogy of Luke, Luke has different names because Luke was a doctor, and Luke was basing his genealogy on the actual physical, biological line of Christ's mother, Mary, the Virgin Mary, okay? But Matthew is using the Hebrew Joseph, the line of the father, Joseph, even though Joseph, of course, was not his biological father. So he was careful to break the genealogy into the 3 sections of 14. Matthew deliberately omitted names from his primary source, 1 Chronicles, to format the genealogy into 3 parts of 14 names. Okay, so he omitted names, but he put in 14 names for three parts of 14, 3 sections of 3 groups of 14. The first section of 14 names begins with the prophet Abraham and ends with King David. Of course, there were a lot more names, in all those over 1,000 years. Now, there were not just 14 generations, obviously. And according to Professor Meyer, this section spans some 1,200 years of ancient Israel's history and signifies the notion Israel was, quote, born for greatness. Professor Meyer said, but the second section of 14 names, which begins with David and ends with the Jews being sent into the Babylonian exile in the year 586 BC, emphasizes the shameful history of Israel, full of unbelief, apostasy, and divine judgment. And this second section, which covers the 400 years of David and his descendants ruling from the throne in Jerusalem, ends with the idea that Israel has lost its greatness. Now, the third section covers a period of 600 years and also has 14 names. But in this third and final section, even though most of the men are unknown to historians, they were legitimate descendants of David and thus rightful heirs to the throne. The family tree then culminates with the birth of Jesus Christ, which Professor Meyer believes marks a revival of royal power. Jesus was given the title of Christ upon his birth, which in Hebrew means Messiah or the Anointed One. Chrismos means chrism. Okay? Professor Meyer said this is just part of the motive behind shaping Jesus' genealogy into groups of 14. He says, in addition, the 14-pointed star, the silver star, is linked directly to the name David, due to the fact that in ancient Hebrew, letters could stand for numbers, numerology. Okay? Every person's name had a numerical value. For example, a letter A, B, C could stand for the numbers 1, 2, and 3. In Hebrew, Professor Mayer said the name David represents the numbers 4, 6, and 4, as ancient Hebrew did not have written vowels. And added together, the number adds to 14, which the expert claims proves his theory. He says, so when you add up the meaning of history, the bottom line is that Jesus Christ is the son of David, the Jewish Messiah. 14 for David. Okay? So I was always wondering what that meant. I mean, the three groups of 14, and that there were also, of course, in 1,200 years, more than 14 generations, but he took 14 names. Now, let's go to the book of Matthew again. Matthew, I have to go to the beginning. Sorry, I have to find my page. Okay. The genealogy of Jesus, according to Matthew chapter 1. The book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac, Isaac begot Jacob, Jacob begot Judah and his brothers. Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez begot Herzon, Herzon begot Ram. Ram begot Aminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David the king. David the king begot Solomon by her who had been the wife of Uriah. Solomon begot Rehoboam. Rehoboam begot Abijah. Abijah begot Asa. Asa begot Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat begot Joram. Joram begot Uzziah. Uzziah begot Jotham. Jotham begot Ahaz. Ahaz begot Hezekiah. Hezekiah begot Manasseh. Manasseh begot Ammon, and Ammon begot Josiah. Josiah begot Jeconiah and his brothers about the time they were carried away to Babylon. And after they were brought to Babylon, Jeconiah begot Shealtiel, and Shealtiel begot Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel begot Abiud. Abiud begot Eliakim. Eliakim begot Azor. Azor begot Zadok. Zadok begot Ahim. Ahim begot Eliud. Eliud begot Eleazar. Eleazar begot Matthan. And Matthan begot Jacob. And Jacob begot Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David until the captivity in Babylon are 14 generations. And from the captivity in Babylon until the Christ are 14 generations. And then they go into the virgin birth of Christ. Now the birth of Jesus Christ was as follows. After his mother Mary was begotten to Joseph. And that's where we read that in the previous video. So as you can see, he does not name every single generation. He skips generations and brings up some names. And as we saw in the second group, most of those kings were very sinful kings. They did something wrong. That's at the time where also the kingdom of the Holy Land, the Promised Land, was split into two, Judah and Israel. Judah and also Israel being the northern part. So that's when they were split. The kingdom was split into two. It was so bad. And then, of course, after that, they had the exile to Babylon, and they came back from there with Zerubbabel. So I always wondered why those three groups of 14. Now we have the answer to that. And that's why we have the Star of Bethlehem in the grotto of the birthplace of the little stable, the little cave stable of the birth of Jesus Christ has the 14 stars. It's a symbol of King David's name, David, with the Hebrew letters. So that's wonderful to know. And if you'd like, please inform other people concerning this, because I'm sure whoever reads this part in the Bible of the Gospel of Matthew has questions about this. This is also by Sebastian Ketley on Express UK. And God bless you. Have a wonderful Christmas, healthy, prosperous Christmas and New Year. Thank you for your support.